This video is about a Scottish steam locomotive which I've been meaning to look at for a fair while. She is the Caledonian Railway 812 class 060 tender engine, brought to TS Classic by Caledonia Works, and this will be different from my normal CW videos, in the sense that I'll be able to do a direct comparison between old and new models of the same locomotive, something that I haven't been able to do for any other engine. As for that one word in the video's title, it's a portmanteau of review and showcase. I couldn't decide between either label, since I initially wanted this to be a normal review, but later thought that I should try to do a more objective showcase instead. But first, a brief history of the 812 class. These engines were designed by John F. McIntosh for express freight or mixed traffic duties, essentially as a bigger version of the older 294 class, also known as jumbos, and it's also worth noting that the 812s had the same type of boiler as the 721 Dunella Stair class 440. The initial 812 class comprised 79 locomotives built in 1899 and 1900, with another 17 examples built to a slightly modified design in 1908 and 1909, and designated as the 652 class. The first 17 members of the 812 class were equipped with Westinghouse air brakes and painted in the Caledonian Railway's famous blue livery for use on passenger trains, while a further 62 were painted in goods black and only fitted with steam brakes as they were built for freight trains. The 812s proved successful and lasted many years in service, with the whole class becoming part of the London, Midland and Scottish Railways fleet upon the grouping in 1923. 3 members of the class, namely 17567, 17598 and 17610, originally 829, 860 and 872 respectively, were withdrawn from service in 1946, but the remaining 76 engines survived into British Railways ownership in 1948, after which they had 40,000 added to their numbers. By 1963, the whole class had been withdrawn from service, but fortunately, one locomotive, number 828, later 17566 and 57566, has been preserved, making her one of only 3 Caledonian engines that survived the cutter's torch. If you're familiar with the Railway series and its television adaptation, you might recognise the 812 class, as she is the basis for Donald and Douglas. As a brief aside, one of the RWS books that I own happens to be the twin engines. The original 812 class add-on appeared in either 2017 or 2018, I can't remember exactly, and it was later rendered obsolete with a new version made from the ground up and released in September 2024. So far, 2 of CW's older add-ons have been replaced by all new versions, the other one being Caledonian Railway 422 number 123. Before we go any further, I'll do a direct side-by-side comparison between the older and newer 812 models. As of mid-August 2026, the original model has long since been discontinued, while the new model is still available from CW's website for £20. Aside from the improved modelling and texturing, another area in which the new 812 differs drastically from the original is where the scripting and features are concerned. For one thing, Locomotion 2.0 didn't exist yet in the late 2010s. As for features on the new 812, these include, but are not limited to, a fluctuating boiler water level depending on the route gradient, realistic regulator and steam chest simulation, a realistic steam brake where applicable, a functioning reverser lock, cab light effects, a Q300 flying over my house right when I'm recording, a customizable lamp arrangement on both the locomotive and tender, with period-accurate Cali, LMS or BR lamps depending on the variant, lump firing simulation, fire intensity synchronized with the exhaust beat, an advanced boiler heating system, as detailed in the manual, a custom auto fireman, and Performance Mode Pro, which has low and max settings, both of which didn't yet exist in the early days of CW. It's worth noting that the original included multiple preservation variants, one labelled as 1990s and the other labelled as present day, while the remastered version only includes one preservation variant. Both the old and new 812 models have animated valve gear inside the frames, and as for the working days variants included in the 2024 pack, these are as follows: Caledonian Railway Dark Blue, CR Light Blue, CR Goods Black, LMS Pre-1927 Black, which has two variants, one with steam brakes, the other with vacuum brakes, LMS Post-1927 Black, with the same braking options as the pre-1927 variant, BR Black in clean or weathered states, and again with the option of having one variant with vacuum brakes and the other with steam brakes, and two BR Rail Tour variants. That is largely the same as the livery selection from the original 812 pack, although the remastered one doesn't include photographic grey and a fictional LMS Crimson Lake variant. For some reason, I initially thought the original pack included a Railway Operating Division variant, until I realised that I got the 812 mixed up with the 294 class. I conducted a test run with each version of the 812, using the Kirkcudbright branch, which is part of the Western Lines of Scotland route. For the sake of a fair test, I set up both versions to haul the same consist, of 5 British Railways Mark I coaches, more specifically, the Mark Is from Armstrong Powerhouse. According to the manual, the ideal fire mass is around 565 pounds for the new 812. I was going to use that as a reference for the original model as well, but one of the first things I noticed upon hopping into the original was the fire mass starting off at around 730 pounds, while the remastered model starts with 450 pounds. 730 versus 450. Which one's better? As I remember also being the case on the other Caledonian engines released in the late 2010s, the original 812 is set up in a way where, once you're up to speed, you can leave the regulator at around 50 to 58% and use the reverser to control the speed. That doesn't appear to be the case on the remastered 812, which can be driven in a more conventional manner, just like the other modern add-ons from CW. Both versions of this engine use authentic sounds recorded from the preserved 828 at the Strathspey Railway, although the new version has an improved sound set in-game. To add, the short whistles are toggled with B on the original 812 and Control B on the remastered. As for how things went on the remastered locomotive, one of the first things I noticed was the brakes being faster to apply than they were on the original, whose brakes didn't apply particularly quickly outside of the emergency setting. As mentioned earlier, the remastered has a working vacuum brake ejector on the appropriate variants, and in the case of the 812 pack, you need to press J for both opening and closing of the ejector. Some CW engines are set up in a way where you need to press Shift J to open the ejector and J to close it. Or I might have got that the other way round, I'm not sure. In any case, both versions of the 812 could manage taking load 5 down the Kokubri branch, and while I got the original up to around 58 miles per hour, I couldn't get to that higher speed on the remastered, no more than 45 in my initial experience. It appears that the remastered version doesn't like the fire mass to be too far beyond the ideal level, but she'll be right as rain when you get the fire mass right. All things considered, I prefer driving the remastered version. More specifically, the variants equipped with air or vacuum brakes, because on those engines, it's easier to maintain steam than it is on one of the variants equipped with only steam brakes, even though I always try to keep the fuel topped up at the right levels when I'm driving one of those with no air or vacuum brakes. Just for the heck of it, I conducted another test run with the remastered 812, but this time it was just to see how fast she could go. I ran the preservation era version of 828 on the North Wales coastal route, starting out from that little station with a stupidly long name, going balls to the wall once over the Britannia Bridge and through Bangor Station, and eventually finishing the journey at Llandudno Junction, thus effectively running the return working of that recent speed test I did with an LSWR-02 tank engine. As for how 828 performed on this run along the North Welsh coast, she steamed better than 17647 did when the inexperienced me took him down to Kokubri, and 828 made it up to an absolute top speed of 60.2 miles per hour on level track. 20% cut-off seemed to be the reverse's sweet spot around those higher speeds. Thus ends my look at both versions of the Caledonian Railway 812 class from Caledonia Works, made either 6 or 7 years apart from each other. Personally, I am of the opinion that the difference between these two models is like night and day. The original may have some things that are not present on the remastered, like the photographic grey and crimson lake liveries, as well as the cab camera view on the running board looking at the valve gear, but I would argue that the remastered is still superior overall. Come to think of it, I recall Mr. Wilson saying, in a comment on my video about the 903 class, that he wants to remaster these engines too, so I'm looking forward to seeing a new Cardine at some point in the future. In saying that, I realise that it's best to leave Chris to work at his own pace, and I'm looking forward to that Pacific in any case. That rhyming was unintentional. Anyway, now that I've shown you what you'll get for your money with the remastered Caledonian Railway 812 class, I'll leave you to decide whether or not you'll pick up this locomotive for yourself. If you've stuck around to the end of the video, you win a paved path in the Yorkshire countryside that has no destination. It's the open road that leads nowhere.